YouTube. Always gives a little hello, everybody. I think we are live on YouTube. I'm Claudia Mühlenweg. I am a natural vision improvement teacher and the founder of the Naturally Clear Vision Method. And this is our weekly Clear Vision Wednesday show. And today I have a guest that I couldn't be more excited about. And I will share just a little bit of before I bring him on. So Dr. Sam Berne is a holistic optometrist. He's been in practice for over 30 years in New Mexico, has written a new book that we're going to talk about. And I had the luxury of attending a workshop with you. Dr. Sam, actually let me bring you onto stage so everybody can see you. Hey, welcome.
Hi.
We did and you worked with primitive reflexes and you discovered, you gave me some kind of glasses that, because I noticed that my right dominant side, I was more aware of that than the left. And so that was so fascinating, your approach. So I know I jumped right into the deep end. So our topic today, and this is kind of the title of your book, Vital Vision, Clear-Eyed Solutions for Midlife and Beyond. So tell us a little bit about why this book and why you felt why did you write this book?
Well, first, thanks for having me, and everybody, thanks for joining in. So that's a great question. Why did I write this book? I've written several other books, and I'm pretty active on social media. I have a Facebook Live show, and for a couple of years, people would ask me really good questions. So what we did is we took the transcripts of the shows and we had a ghostwriter help me, and we created a book based on what were the most popular questions. And so each chapter is my hot take on, first of all, what is the condition? And second of all, how can you help this condition in a more integrative, holistic way? So that's how the book came about. And, we're in a pre-sale right now with the book, but it's going really well, a lot of interest, and happy to share it and any other insights today.
Yeah, and I put all the links, by the way, in the show notes where you can pre-order the book and all that. But I want to read a quote that kind of tags onto what you just said from the book. And I didn't get to read the whole thing yet, but I read quite a bit of it. And I love this quote. You said, with a dominant belief that prescriptions and surgery are the only options, people can often feel bullied into accepting a certain procedure or treatment method, even if they would prefer another option. If this is you, pause before accepting anything and first seek out a second opinion from a more holistic perspective. End of quote, right? And you are a trained optometrist. You've been doing this for 30 years, and I think you have now a telemedicine practice. But yeah, I love that you said that, because I hear that from my clients a lot, and I know you probably do too, that I didn't understand what the eye doctor was saying, and should I do this procedure, or, so tell us a little bit more of what you would tell people to do.
Well, I really advocate for patience, and I know what it's like because I've been on the other side of that, where an authority figure thinks he or she knows better, but it's your body. And there need to be options and alternatives, especially if, pharmaceuticals and surgery are the only two options. I mean, come on, we know the eyes are so related to our, systemic health, our metabolic health, our emotions. And I love your posts. You talk about a mind-body connection. Exactly. Or you've had Mark Grossman on. He talked about Chinese medicine and acupuncture and how that so relates to our vision. So you don't always have to rush into the surgery. And look, that's the way the eye care field makes their money, but it's your body, and I'm here to advocate for patience.
So tell us why, and I don't know your whole background. Were you doing traditional optometry or behavioral optometry, and then did you then switch? Or what was your big aha in terms of, hey, what I learned in optometry school might not be the whole story?
Well, I remember my first year of optometry school, I was sitting in the back with a friend of mine, and the professor was saying, and by the way, if any of you hear about the Bates method, put it out of your head. It's total quackery. And my friend and I turned to each other and we started laughing and we said, we want to go into that. That's very interesting. So I was always, a renegade. And actually, what ended up happening, I did an internship in California. I was from the East Coast. And I did an externship at a behavioral optometrist's office, Dr. Bob Sannett in Lemon Grove, San Diego. And he was one of my first mentors. And he was running 60 patients a week through his vision therapy practice. And he was so satisfied with what he was doing. And I think that was my aha moment. And then I went back to the East Coast after I graduated optometry school, and I enrolled at the Gazelle Institute. So I spent a year learning about child development and learning. And then I was very myopic. I was about minus 275 with astigmatism. And I met a holistic behavioral optometrist, Dr. Al Shankman, the Albert A. Shankman, and went to him for about a year in vision therapy and completely dissolved my prescription. So after those things, I mean, it was a no-brainer. I was just going to devote my career to helping people improve their vision instead of just, the company line of making things worse every year.
That's amazing. And so you actually with vision therapy, and for those of you listeners that might not know the difference, can you just really quickly explain to us? So we have traditional optometry where you get your contacts and your glasses prescription measured, your usually visual acuity gets measured, sometimes depth perception, but what is the difference to a behavioral, or I think sometimes they call them developmental or neurooptometrists?
Right.
Can you share this a little bit for everybody so that we all understand?
So I think in behavioral or developmental optometry, we recognize that vision is more of a brain and body process. And depending on the level the behavioral optometrist is training, we look at things like visual skills and eye-brain processing. If we go into child development, we look at things like the primitive reflexes, obviously nutrition and diet. But that's like even on the surface. I dove into things like functional medicine. I'm a craniosacral therapist. I'm an aromatherapist. I'm a somatic therapist. So I did a lot of really deep studies because I found that my patients, there was a real psycho-emotional, psycho-spiritual part of vision. You're nodding your head because we're very simpatico in what we believe. And so in behavioral optometry, a lot of times it's eye exercises or you're doing a vision therapy type approach that's more eyeball related. So you're not really getting into, mind body, or that's why I love what you're doing because it's so integrative. And that's what I feel is needed, especially when you have people with pretty complicated vision problems. And then if they've had surgery or they're on drugs, it just becomes very complicated. That's why you have to suss it out. And there's no cookbook. I often say that I don't have a cookbook approach. I look at each person individually and we go from there.
That is so interesting. There's several things that you said that I want to piggyback on. So I just did the recording for the Better Eyesight Magazine podcast with Nathan Oxenfeld and Fernanda Leiter from Brazil. And we talked about how Dr. Bates back then had this free clinic and they were helping people for free. And Emily Learman, who became his second wife, she was somebody he cured her vision. People trusted her and she was so empathetic and she was really about helping people and getting to know them. And even though they had this free clinic and it was only like 5 minutes, just like a regular doctor, 5 minutes, people it was all about connecting with them on an emotional level and seeing what works for them and not the cookbook approach. And then the story in this month episode was about, there was a doctor who was like, why don't you just give them glasses and contacts and be done with it? Why are you wasting your time and don't even get paid helping these people? So I think that was one thing that just came to me as you were talking, how we really see the whole person, right? We really see the whole person and look at all the things from the emotions to, to the whole journey to when we really work with them versus just giving them here's this protocol of doing this or that, which behavioral optometry, in my opinion, at least does something to improve your vision. But like you said, it's very mechanical, like the pencil push-ups and those kind of approaches. So, but you said, if I understood correctly, that you improved your myopia and astigmatism with vision therapy. So tell us more about that.
Well, Dr. Shankman wrote a book called Vision Enhancement Training. And he was actually also a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher. And the things that we did with Dr. Shankman were very whole body oriented.
Mm,
We did not do, traditional vision therapy. And every practice that he would give us, he invited us to use the practice as a mirror to understand and learn about our habits and conditioning. And so I would spend 30 minutes a day doing all of his practices, and they were very much involved with movement. And we used an eye patch a lot, and a lot of different things. But in the end, I realized for myself that I developed myopia because I had a learning problem. And when I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with a learning disability, and we ended up at an eye doctor's office, and I ended up getting minus lenses. And so I became a memorizer. And Dr. Shankman found that my left eye tended to wander out. So I had difficulty with convergence. And so once we repaired all of that, I didn't have to carry that tension anymore.
mm,
And my reading and learning, really came up to where it should be. So I have a soft spot for kids. I work with special needs kids. I know my book's about middle age, but I actually do a lot of work with special needs, autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome. So I can relate to those kids really well. And this type of vision work is really profound in getting them to turn their light bulb on and really engage and connect their eyes to their brain and their body. And as you know, it's so satisfying and rewarding because you're not just doing something rote. You're really helping a person change their life and contributing to them. And when I started to get on social media in 2016, that just really opened up even more, because that was a real hard thing for this kind of vision approach, is that nobody knows about it. So people
mhm.
like you and Nathan and a few others, they're adept on social media, so they're able to get the word out and get more, because people are struggling. They want an answer, they just don't know there's an answer out there. So that's where we come in and work together to bring more awareness that there is a possibility for help.
Well, and I'm so grateful for, because you're a trained eye doctor, and there aren't as many eye doctors. You mentioned Dr. Mark Grossman and,
Mhm.
Dr. Ray Gottlieb. I mean, there isn't that many out there that are, going, and we had Dr. Elisa Haransky back on. And so there's a few people that are, looking more way beyond that, the spectrum. And I think
Yeah.
you're right. It still shocks me that, Bates would probably turn around in his grave that 100 years later, it's still so unknown, right? It's still so unknown. And people still say, especially in the traditional eye care field, that this doesn't work, when we know that we see that vision is 90% brain, 10% eyeball. And I always say 100%. The problem is that 100% of their attention is on the 10% on this.
Okay.
um,
That's the
so,
eye exam. The eye exam is on that 10%. So what's going on there? Yeah, exactly.
mm.
Hmm.
So when you work with, I know we are to focus not children. I'm looking at questions also coming in, but when you work with children, because I do get a lot of requests for children, and I haven't been working with children anymore since I gave up my physical, in-person practice. So when you work with children, I know it's a little side detour, but how do you work with them? I know you do in-person workshops, right? You do. How do you work with children mostly?
Well, it starts with a really detailed developmental history, and the three most important early time periods: gestation, birth, and bonding. So I ask a lot of questions in that time zone, because if there's any kind of interference, there's going to be an obstacle in vision development, sensory motor development. And also studying the primitive reflexes, I have a group of optometrists in Scandinavia who I studied with. They'd been doing the reflexes since 1975. The primitive reflexes directly affect vision development. So that's another piece. I also do craniosacral and nutrition counseling, but it starts with the developmental history. And then from that point, I teach parents how to work with their kids from a gross motor level. We do a lot of bilateral work, a lot of balancing, a lot of rhythm and timing, reflex work, color therapy sometimes works well, nutritional counseling, and then advising them on lens prescriptions, because again, it's a total disaster what eye doctors want to do. When you, first of all, when you dilate an eye or you put eye drops in, you're paralyzing the focusing muscles. So how can you get a accurate measurement on a prescription? You're overcorrecting. Every child that I see that's been to some other person, I'm reducing the prescription by 60 to 80%, because that is really interfering with their visual development. The way lenses are taught to be prescribed is horrible. And so it's all of those things. I do consult at a place called Kid Power in Albuquerque. I go down there once a month. So I do evaluate kids there, and just through telehealth or workshops or whatever. But the pediatrics is very effective. And strabismus, if you've got strabismus, I don't recommend eye muscle surgery. And lazy eye, I don't recommend wearing a patch 8 hours a day. That's insane. Again, you treat the whole person, like you said. This is what we learned at Gazelle. A vision problem is more than in the eye, it's in the whole person. And the last thing I'll say, I just saw this parent yesterday with a 12-year-old who did a year of vision therapy and still has exactly the same symptoms. So what's missing is that we're going to do some biochemistry testing, because I think there's a problem in cellular absorption. She's admitted she's depleted. And one of the key things I learned is you start with building up the cell first so that there's energy, and then you can do your vision therapy or whatever you're doing along with it. Now the child has more energy to make the developmental gains we're asking him to make. But if you ignore the dietary nutritional part, sometimes they come in and they're so depleted to begin with, it's hard for them to make changes. And that was the essential piece yesterday with this family. So, we just look at a lot of different things and then go from there.
That sounds fantastic. So because with little children, you have to work in person pretty much, like when they get older. So yeah, I mean, oh God, I have so many questions. I don't even know where to start, but since you just talked about nutrition, so what is something when you said somebody is nutritionally, like even a child, right? I always say when we get older, all the bad stuff catches up with us. So all the age-related eye diseases are just like too many chemicals, too many toxins, leaky gut, years of not eating proper nutrients, that just basic at some point, hey, hits the fan. But when you talk about a 12-year-old, like how can that nutrition impact the vision? And what is the thing that you advise this family, for instance, to change?
Well, you probably heard this statistic because it's floating around. The eyes and the brain make up 2% of the body weight and use 25% of the food intake. You've heard that, I'm sure.
Right.
Anyway, we find out, first of all, what are they eating and what would they be attracted to eating if you let them. And then from there, we talk about the rainbow diet, we talk about the microbiome, we talk about healthy fats and oils. I do different kinds of lab tests. One I like to do with kids is a hair mineral analysis, because that shows us about the mineral ratios, and the minerals are spark plugs on cellular health. So we can see, are they absorbing carbohydrates, proteins? Do they have heavy metal toxicity? What's going on in an inflammatory response? What are their adrenals doing? What's their thyroid health? So through a hair mineral analysis, that's a great way to get a snapshot on what's going on. And then again, it's very individualized, but it's somehow getting more amino acids and proteins into their body in the morning, even if it has to be a smoothie, and really cut out the sugar, gluten, and the processed foods. And then the challenge is their textures. Some don't like to swallow pills, some don't like powder, some are finicky eaters. So we have to dance with them on that. And a lot of times we do the best we can. That's why sometimes doing like a morning kind of a protein shake, something, there's some good ones, really good ones out there, or something where we can get a lot in them early and then really try to reduce the sugar consumption and just go from there. It's we'll see. We're doing a hair mineral analysis on this child, but her mother immediately said, she's depleted. I know it. And I said, bingo, right there. So vision therapy is not going to be the answer until we do something to support her energy better.
That is so interesting. And I think, wouldn't you agree that it's also about educating the parents? Because sometimes, at least in my practice, when I used to see children, it would be like, here, help me fix my child, and I'm like, let's start working with you first. First of all, you're going to be working with your child and making into games, but also you need to understand it's not like, hey, Johnny, go in the corner and do some palming. So let's switch gears to the middle-aged population, because I would think that a lot of the things you said would be similar applicable, right? Like doing a hair mineral analysis and figuring out, like, is there any nutrient deficiencies? Or where would you start with somebody that's like in their, let's say, 50s? Common things that you probably hear too is cataracts, floaters. Like, where do you start with somebody that comes with, maybe a beginning of cataracts or something like that?
Okay, well, I may see it differently than other people, but when somebody is complaining about, a whole laundry list, there's really a similar thing going on, which is they're not getting enough nutrients in the eyes. The eyes have the highest metabolic need of the body. The mitochondria are not working well in the retina. There may be some kind of glycation process going on either in the vitreous or the lens, meaning a glucose molecule is attaching to either the collagen molecule in the vitreous or the protein molecule in the lens, so that's creating cataracts. There's congestion, visual stress, maybe wearing the wrong prescription. And then, liver, are they absorbing vitamin A? Are they producing enough bile? So there's a lot of different questions that need to be asked, as you probably do. I think one of the things that happens is that we have the biochemical aspect of the eyes, and then we have the functional aspects. And this is where eye doctors fail, because they're not really looking at the functional aspects. Function changes structure. So the way I use my body is going to affect the anatomy, especially. And so if my two eyes aren't working together, or I don't know how to relax my eyes, or I'm not getting enough daily sunlight, or on my computer till late at night, these are all lifestyle things that I'm advising people to do. And some change and some don't. Some get worse, some get better. A lot of it depends on, their body and their psyche and, things we don't even understand.
And I know you have protocols for different vision conditions, and you talk about the oils that you're, recommending. And so it's like a really holistic approach. Let me look at some questions, because I feel maybe we get some good viewer questions that would be helpful. So Zinda is saying on YouTube, I'm on a low-fat plant-based diet. Eyes are very red and dry. Do you think it's the low fat? I was trying to avoid it because of the high cholesterol.
Well, certainly fats and oils have been shown to, lubricate the eyes better. It could be also allergies, functional. Eyelid health is such a key thing right now, because a lot of people with dry eye, they're having difficulty. The oily part of the tears are drying out too quickly, and so the tears are evaporating. And so that's why I developed a castor oil eye drop that you can do in the evening that replaces the oily part of the tears. And somebody wrote me about MSM eye drops, so I should talk about them a little bit. Those are a sulfur-based eye drop that I created, and it's very good for reducing inflammation, improving circulation. And, sometimes you need to use some natural eye drops. You need to increase fats and oils. Maybe you need to protect yourself from blue light. Maybe your two eyes aren't working together. But most of the research and most of my clinical experiences, we do need a good amount of fats and oils. The retina is 50% fatty acids. I know our brain needs a lot of fatty acids. So, those could be some things. And then maybe finding some natural lubricating drops to support your eyes before they go downhill like they are right now.
Well, thank you so much. And we do want to make sure that everybody knows this is not medical advice. This is an educational show here. And even Dr. Sam is excuse me, doctor. It's still like, we're not telling you because you're not diagnosing. Just want to make sure that we all get that. But so I put castor oil. I have a castor oil eye mask that I put around my eyes, but I've never put a castor oil into my eyes. And I use organic castor oil. But tell us a little bit, because I'm curious about that too. the oil that you use that you can put in your eyes, is that any way different than regular organic castor oil, or?
Well, it's made in a way that it's pretty comfortable in your eyes. Now, I have tried many different kinds of castor oil that is organic, and the issue sometimes is it's very thick, so you get like this blurry vision. And if you use too much of it, sometimes it can clog up your eyelids, the meibomian glands. So you have to be careful about that. But like what you're doing with the mask is beautiful. I watched that video and I love that because what you're teaching there is a way to help people get empowered about moisturizing their eyes. And how cool is that? Because the other thing is Restasis or steroids or God knows what, all these pharmaceuticals. So I think you got to see what your body does with it. Some people love it. Some people, they don't do well with it. So I think you need to find a brand that you like. There are a lot of good ones out there. And if it's something you want to try, start easy. Just use a little bit. Use it on the outside of the eyelids. Maybe this mask that you have. That sounds like a great idea. And see how it lands in you. And if it's positive, castor oil, as we both know, has so many great benefits. Why not for the eyes?
Yeah, thank you. And I will try your, so somebody was asking if you have drops. I put to the Zoom chat. Is it drsamberne.com? I
Yeah.
can put that. Yeah, so you have a straw there too. And I'm going to try your,
I'll tell you what, I'll send you a bottle. Don't buy them.
Okay.
I'll
Well,
send you.
I will share about it, but the castor oil I do use for the around the eyes is
Oh, that's
very
okay.
thick. It is very
Yeah,
thick.
yeah,
Sometimes a little bit I just put it a little bit on my lashes, and so a little bit gets into the eye, but I use it only at night. So you're right, it kind of
exactly.
does blur out the vision just a little
Right.
bit.
Just use it at night and you're safe with that.
So next question, Karen is asking, will wearing my contacts for myopia, astigmatism, and monovision during work hours negate everything that I'm doing off hours, work off work hours, which is Claudia's teachings and wearing reduced glasses. So she's doing my program. She's
Yeah.
already reduced glasses, but during the day she wears her contacts with a full correction and also monovision, which is something I advise against. But
Yeah.
tell her
Oh, so your advice, Claudia, is that she shouldn't do the monovision? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so the monovision is going to split your two eyes and you're going to have different focal distances. So it's like going 3 steps forward when you're working with Claudia and her methods, and then 4 steps backward when you're doing the monovision. If I were you, I don't know, is this person nearsighted or farsighted?
She says nearsighted, astigmatism, and myopia.
So what you could do is ask your eye doctor to just make up a pair of computer glasses. That would be a reduced prescription. That's a great technique to relax your system and open. That's what I did personally, and just wear that for work. But at least both eyes are doing the same thing at the same time, because your brain is going to suppress the other eye. That is not an acceptable setup. I think that creates so many problems. So if you stop the monovision, you might find what you're doing with Claudia, you'll increase and improve much faster. So that would be my endorsement.
Well, thank you so much for that, Dr. Sam. And I usually tell if people work on the computer all day, I usually advise them, even if they need contacts for some reason versus glasses,
Sure.
tell them, for the 2 feet distance. And if needed for driving, you can just stick a pair of minus lenses on top if but if you spend all day at the computer, why wear glasses that correct you, or contacts that correct you for 20 feet vision? And yeah, monovision has become one of those convenient quick fixes like progressive glasses. And let me look at more questions because I have my own, but I want to make sure everybody's here who was watching live. We have a lot of people watching live. Cataracts. Okay, so there was somebody who was saying cataracts healing, diabetes healing, please. We already talked about cataracts, and diabetes is a whole different topic. That's obviously stress release and changing your diet. But let's look at other questions right now. So Vince is saying strong -7, -8 prescription and getting worse according to optometrist every few years, plus astigmatism. Should I ask for no astigmatism correction?
I'm sure you get this question a lot, huh? Well, it depends what your astigmatism is. I mean, The deal is that, if you get a prescription without astigmatism, it's going to be distorted. It's going to be a little blurry for you. So you would want to start using that in non-demanding and non-threatening situations. When you wear an astigmatism lens, it's warping your vision. You have a warp. So when you have no astigmatism, you're used to the warp. It's like now there's no warp. Well, how do I deal with that? There also may be some postural adaptations that you've made with the astigmatism. And so, you got to negotiate this. Most eye doctors won't go for that. But, if you can, yes, I would say get a non-correcting astigmatism prescription. I like to do symmetrical lenses because that encourages the two eyes to start to know where to position together. So it just depends on how open your eye doctor is to be able to do that. But I'd say go for it. Wear something reduced, for indoor stuff. And if you're nearsighted, do my plus lens to blur. That's where you wear a high farsighted prescription. And if you're farsighted, you can get a minus lens to wear for certain vision therapy exercises. Those work great for getting you out of your current habit or pattern. Remember, any prescription you get from the doctor is reinforcing what you're coming in with. It's not really treating anything. It's just making it tighter, more compressed. Even just going without them sometimes in non-demanding situations is a great thing to do. And notice your emotional response, your mental response when you take them off. We play this game with people where we say, all right, I'm taking your lenses away. Tell me what you feel. Tell me how you think you would, be in the world. And they go, oh my God, I'm paralyzed. And so we get to see how addicted we are to the way that we see. And again, the Bates work, what Claudia's doing, what I'm doing, Nathan, Mark Grossman, this is few and far between, but we're offering a new way of seeing that is really freeing. I mean, you really come out of prison. And I remember reading a quote, take off your glasses and see, Jacob Lieberman, one of my colleagues. And he said, wearing a full prescription is like being in a maximum security prison. That was very interesting, but it is like the whole thing where you get used to a certain way of seeing, like the Stockholm syndrome, and all of a sudden you start taking the lenses off. Emotions are going to come, things are going to come up for you that you've been internalizing, and if you're up for that journey, it could be incredibly freeing and healing for you. And that's why Claudia and I do this, because we love to see the transformations that people make.
Wow, I've never heard Jacob say that, but that was just great advice, really. Thank you for highlighting that emotional response, and with astigmatism, especially how that, like I had a client, he had a pretty high, I think he had a -3 or 4 astigmatism, and we basically added half the cylinder to the sphere, and he said that for the first 2 weeks everything felt like squished, and then that relaxed and then opened up, but you have to be like what Dr. Sandra said. I love what you said. You have to be willing to, the emotions that come up, and for some people that's stronger than for others. But you have to be willing to be you have to be comfortable with being a little uncomfortable, maybe initially, and just really connect to that, right? So that was a great example. And tell us a little more, because when I first started, I got these flippers from Berne, the store, the plus minus flippers. So that approach is definitely coming from optometry. I personally don't use that, but tell us a little bit more. I'm just curious. So, basically you let's say you have the -7, and you would put some plus lenses on, like readers maybe, or you basically make your vision, let's say you put plus readers, 3 readers on, right? As an example, that would make him look like a -10, and that, right? Explain that a little bit to us, that idea that you're putting the opposite lens on.
So for all the listeners out there, you can Google plus lens to blur, Dr. Berne, minus lens to blur, Dr. Berne. All my exercises and all my content is free. So you can just go to my website. I don't charge anything for that. All right. So whatever amount of myopia you have, you go to the drugstore and you get the strongest readers you can. While you're there, get an eye patch, come home, take your lenses off, lock yourself in a room, cover your left eye, take a look out at 10, 15 feet and notice how blurry it is without any lenses. Then put on the plus lenses and immediately notice what you start thinking, what you don't like about the blur. I'm out of control. I could get hurt. This is scary. So you start to see the mental messaging to the eyes, which is a hypervigilance. That's what myopia is. I have to keep it clear survival wise, no matter what. So you put that on for a minute and you relax into the blur as best as you can. You take off the lenses and you notice that now your eyesight is more clear. And you do it again. You do it 3 times. And every time you put the blur on, it's spreading the light into parts of the retina that you normally are not accessing with your regular lenses. So it's going to give you a lot more peripheral vision. You see, blur is about receiving more. It's about relaxing. It's about being more intuitive, creative, flexible. It's not a negative thing, but we are associating it with a negative thing because the eye doctor says, oh, it's blurry. We've got to get rid of it. So then after you've done it 3 times on the right side, you then take the patch off and you're going to notice how much clearer and brighter it is with no lenses. It's going to amaze you. And then you do the same with the other eye. If you do that for 30 days, I can tell you your current distance prescription will start to reduce. You will put on your regular prescription and you will start to get a headache. And that'll show you that you're unwinding your vision. Now on the farsighted side, it's a little harder to get the lenses. I actually sell them on my website because I want people to access it. I usually go with like a -2. And so if you're hyperopic, you wear magnification lenses, you do the same thing except through the minus lens, and you're going to get the same kind of openings around not needing as much magnification. So the whole idea is you're challenging your vision, your mind, your brain, your eyes, your body by wearing something that's a lot more diffused. And you see, one of the things I've learned in health is the more we can become dissolute. So we have resolution and dissolution. Inhale, exhale. We're always holding our breath on the inhale. So in this, we develop a wider range on our neurological health by resolving, but then dissolving. And the more comfortable we get in the playing in that band, that's going to give us more flexibility and versatility, and it's going to slow down the aging process. So it's a winner, and you can do it. You don't need to go to an optometrist to get these glasses. They're out there. So you just get them and you start doing these exercises and your eyes will improve.
That I love that. I will try that. I mean, my vision is really great, but there's always could always be made improvements. So
Yeah.
that's a fantastic. Yeah, I used to get they're called flippers, and it's basically like it is a little stick, and then it has the same plus and minus, and then you can kind of flip them around. And I don't know why you would go to your whatever if you're I'm fast. My background is farsightedness, so I don't know why I would do the plus, but that's a great way. And if you have a link that we can put in the chat, that's great. Otherwise, we just Google it, but maybe we can find a link. Thank you so much. That's a great way to explore that, because what I teach sometimes too is what reading, like if you're farsighted or have presbyopia, the old age side, really small print and looking at it so close. And then you relax in your eyes and you're just moving your attention. You notice the opposite movement and the white is wider, and then after that you look at small print and suddenly like what was super blurry before is, so you kind of getting into that zone of making it worse in a way and then relaxing into that, because now you're like, okay, now there's no point in making an effort because, and then I love that. So that's a really great practice of thing that people can explore. It's free. You're teaching it for free. Thank you so much. And you can get readers for like at the dollar stores if you're nearsighted, and if you're farsighted, you can order them from Dr. Sam's website. So it's not, it's a very inexpensive way to try this out.
Exactly. Right. You got it.
Let's see what else. Is it possible to get rid of floaters, or will they just slide down after 6 months? I don't know what does that mean, sliding down, but
So, in this new book, Vital Vision, the number one question, it's in my first chapter, is what do I do with these friggin' floaters? Because as you know, there's so many different reasons. I mean, some people, they swear by my 15% MSM eye drops. Oh my God, after 3 days, they got rid of the floaters. You can see customer reviews. but that's not for everybody. I mean, I think it's partly lymph, it's partly biochemical, it's stress, it's collagen. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that go into floaters, but you're not getting enough oxygenation and hydration, and things are drying out, and you get a posterior vitreal detachment, and all these floaters. And so you've got to start building your collagen up in the eyes. And you know so yes, you can improve floaters, but I can't guarantee it.
Great, thank you for that. And then there's a similar question about cataracts. Is there anything you can do? I know you have drops, so share a little bit more about you. We talked about cataracts a little bit already, but anything like when, let's say somebody comes to you with a level 3 or 4 stage cataract, what would you tell them?
Well, it's at stage 3 or 4. That's a tough one with cataracts because it's pretty locked in there. And by the way, the cataract surgery works very, very well. There are ways that you can navigate it so that you come out with a positive result, like no monovision. Don't do a lot of complicated bifocals and astigmatism corrections. Just do the simple correct both eyes for distance, and you'll be good to go and protect your eyes from the blue light, because those lenses may not protect you from the artificial emitted blue light. But in the earlier stages of cataracts, glutathione and vitamin C are essential. And then you can add some other things like, the carotenoids, lutein, zeaxanthin, astaxanthin. There are eye drops out there that, people use, Can-C, Oculomed, Cineraria. So, you can try those. I tend to work with it also systemically. So, improving my glucose processing, so reduce my sugar or eliminate that. A lot of good antioxidants, and just see where the chips fall. And in early stages you have a good chance of neutralizing the development. In the later stages, it's not, the results are not quite as good.
So I mean, we are 100% on the same page, because I say the same thing. And I know my mom had cataract surgery, and I asked her, like, what kind of lens are you going to use? I said, oh, whatever the doctor recommended. I'm like, no, mommy, like, this is like drives me nuts. So I did like hours of her explaining, that she did get the distance lenses, but she was like, oh, whatever they do. And I've heard stories that people had the surgery, and then like 2 weeks later, everything was blurry because they didn't do the emotional processing, they didn't do the preparation. And so I always say the work that you do or the work that I do in combination with the surgery, so that you really address like the root cause. Like, did you have diabetes? There's a like 60% thing higher risk of cataracts when you have, and you don't have to have diabetes. It could just be pre-diabetes, So, addressing all those things at the same time is important, but also the emotional component. So awesome. Let's see if we have any more questions. What if I have one eye seemingly farsighted and one eye seemingly nearsighted? Like, basically, I think the question is like her eyes are like somehow naturally like, not monovision
Yeah.
correct. But yeah.
So the exercise I like to do is called eye dialogue, where I'm actually talking to each eye, and I'm asking about the marriage of each eye. That's another kind of big exercise that you could find. And working with the patch a lot in my lifestyle to kind of really understand, who am I through my right eye? Who am I through my left eye? In farsightedness, we're pushing the world away, and nearsightedness, we're pulling the world in. So you're in a push-pull. What's the collaboration or the marriage like? And then maybe doing some binocular exercises like the Brock string or the magic eye. See if you can get yourself into a situation where you are processing simultaneously. Work on bilateral integration with your body, get better with your bilaterality. These are some of the things that you've got to help the brain. Again, what Claudia said, 10% is in the eye and 90% is in the brain. Let's tap that 90%, and then you could probably have a little more collaboration or cooperation between the differences.
Wow, this is like, we're already 45 minutes in, so we have to come to a close, but I definitely want to bring you back because this has been amazing. So you already, I put all the links in the show notes. So how can, first of all, I have a couple of questions. So you have your social media channels, I put them all in there. But how can people find you? How can they get the book? how can they work with you if they want to, do you even do private sessions? I don't know how you work with clients outside of what you already shared.
Yeah, I still do a little bit of private sessions through telehealth. You can text me your question at 1-844-932-1291. That's 844-932-1291. Or you can email me hello@drsamberne.com. And I'm on all the channels, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and Twitter. And I also have a podcast, so I put out about 4 or 5 podcasts a week. And Claudia is going to be on my podcast soon. I can't wait to have her. We're gonna really ask her a lot of hard questions.
I wanted to draw things with you, Sam, Dr. Sam. It's like, I know you did dolphin retreats. I mean, there's so many amazing things. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. And I am going to be in Southern California for those of you doing a series of master classes in San Diego, March 5th, in LA, March 7th, and Santa Barbara, March 12th. Different ways to participate. If you don't have a lot of money, you can still come. It's not expensive, or you can, the more you pay, the more access you have. But anyway, that would be a way to interact with me. But yeah, I think just go to my website, type in what you want to learn, and I have over 1,000 video blogs on every condition. So you'll learn, and the exercises are there. So the resources are there for you.
You are an inspiration. Before I even got online, I thought, like, I cannot do this work online. I can only do it in person. And then I saw all your stuff, and I'm like, you inspired me to do more online work for sure. And so, yeah, so there's a link. All the links are in there where they can find you and the book. When does the book come out, actually, the physical book?
February 28th. We may have it sooner. So those that are ordering a pre-sale, we're talking to the publisher. So it's coming. It's in the pipeline. So it'll be happening pretty soon, maybe probably 2-3 weeks.
I hope so. My birthday is February 21st, and I hope to have that book by then.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much. This was really
welcome.
amazing. Is there one last message you want to share with everybody before we stop the live feed?
You don't have to live out your doctor's diagnosis, and work with Claudia because she is a great resource. I've been following her a long time, and she's got it for sure, the whole package. And just be persistent, be patient, do some things every day, bring it into your lifestyle. And if you do that, you will definitely see lots of improvement. And just go to your eye doctor once in a while to get the data, and don't buy into all the fear and all the things they want to sell you. And then talk to somebody like me or Claudia or some of the other natural vision teachers, because we have a lot to offer as an opposite to what the allopathics are offering.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sam. This was amazing. Really grateful. And for anybody on YouTube, if you're interested, we have the Clear Vision Club. We're now going to quit the live stream, but we're going to have a little bit extra time with Dr. Sam here on Zoom. And I see you all next week for Clear Vision Wednesday. Make sure to follow Dr. Sam on Instagram, on YouTube. Go to his website. There's lots of free resources. And also make sure to follow me and subscribe to the channel.
Yes.
And I see you all next week.